Welcome to Our Ventura TV. I'm Lyn Fairly, and I'm very, very proud to introduce James Toler, who served in the Army from 1981 to 2010. Welcome, James Toler.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's a remarkable amount of service. And I know that you were in the Army and you started as a medic,
yes,
and then quickly became a Huey helicopter rescue pilot, and then flew prop jets and other jets and execs to the battlefield, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And I believe you served in Bosnia, Kuwait, and where else?
Well, I flew medevac in Somalia. I was during that conflict, and then later I spent time in Kuwait, but I was flying into Afghanistan from there in the beginning of the war.
You served twice in Afghanistan, I think, right?
Yes. When I was in Kuwait, we flew there, and it wasn't an assignment. So later, when I was in Germany, they sent me to Afghanistan to work a small business jet out of there.
So fast forward to about 2004 or so.
Okay.
You were in Kandahar,
Yeah, that was when
correct?
we were first going in and out of that airfield. Kandahar, Bagram airfield, those were the two primary places.
I'm going to read something you
Sure.
wrote, actually, in the inside of a new book that you've produced. And the name of the book is Tag, You're It. And James writes, while working in Afghanistan from 2004 to 2012, he was afforded the opportunity to view and photograph some great tag artist work. In the earlier days of the war, the overseeing command did not view them as art, only as graffiti and not to be tolerated. Only military logos were accepted. James has created this archive. It's really art history to illustrate that art in all forms is therapy for those facing adversity and traumatic events. Today, millions all over the world are faced with such events, from the youngest child to the oldest survivor, rich, poor, militant, activist, instigator, or the innocent. I love that line. All those caught up in the events need a release from their reality. Art is a Way by James E. Toler. Now, this book is phenomenal. I'm going to set it here on the table and show you some of what of the tag art, the original tag art pieces were on a wall in Kandahar, and we'll get the cameras to focus on that. And tell us a little bit about the art and the original, the beginnings of it. It was just paint that was already on the truck.
Right. What they had was they had paint that they were using for military purposes, and so they were putting logos and stuff on either walls or on vehicles. That's why just the simple one-tone, two-tone colors. The first ones that first started coming out with two tones was the 06 ones, and there's a couple of them, and they're now commissioned and doing work in Australia.
This would be a British camp.
That was a British camp where I first saw that. And this particular wall right here that we're showing was in front of the post exchange in Kandahar Air Base.
So people would just, like hundreds of thousands of people would just
Hundreds of
walk by
thousands of
this
people,
wall.
Civilians, contractors, you name it, soldiers of all walks went and walked past this wall. And there's other areas on this wall where they had places for security reasons. You could hide inside there if there was a rocket attack. I've actually been in those little areas.
Wow, that's
yeah, while there were attacks going on. So,
now,
yes.
as these progress and become very interesting, there's more color that's introduced. Where did they find the color paint?
Now, once again, once as the contractor started to show up, they started to bring in other materials. And so they were the artists were acquiring this paint, and I don't know how, but they were getting it from whatever means they could get it. And so that's when we started to see the colors. And when I first started to see this stuff, like I said, I started to see logos, but then it started to go from military logos into small slogans and sayings, and I knew that we were starting to get into an art show, and that's when I knew I needed to document this.
And not only are you documenting it in this book and online in several different ways, actually, but you want to, your project is to actually bring these walls home, bring these to Washington, D.C., and have them become a monument to these more recent wars, to honor the soldiers that have served.
Yes, I lived in Washington, D.C. for almost 7 years, and while I was there, I'd ride my bike and I'd see all the monuments. And I noticed that there really wasn't any current monuments to the soldiers. And what better monument I could think of that made by the contractors and the soldiers and brought back.
Yeah, it's really a remarkable project. We're calling it Kandahar Tags.
Yes.
If you Google that or look online to Kandahar Tags, or the other one is Cargo.
Yeah, if we go to the Cargo Collective and you go Kandahar Tags or J. Toler, you'll find that. And if you usually I'm like the first three under Google, I think, if you go because I started out with a YouTube video in the beginning. This is how this whole thing started. Was I was showing my pictures to some friends, and they told me to get on Kickstarter. And Kickstarter started me out, but I pulled the Kickstarter project and I funded it myself, because I wanted to be able to say what I wanted to say. But everyone that supported me, I gave them postcards or offered. And these pictures here were three-dimensional photos, or three-dimensional pictures that started to appear. And that's when I knew that the artists were really starting to show their work.
And they're remarkable. And you start to see more and more women appear on the wall.
Well, in the American camp, this is some of the British stuff we're showing right now, and the Canadians always put their little maple leaf on everything. But they started to show up in the American camp, some of the beautiful women. And then in the beginning, as we progress through the book, we can show a couple more. Here we are. We've got the cartoon characters, and we've got the beginning of some of the women. We got Speed Racer and a few others, Fight Club and such. Okay.
This also can be seen in a wonderful video that's actually on my Facebook page right now,
Yes.
Lyn Fairly, and as well your own.
Yes, and we're opening up a Facebook for Kandahar tags at the time. This has just started only about 3 months ago, and I've been humbled with the overwhelming response that I've received. I had my first showing just outside of DC in a coffee shop, and sold every book. And I'm only selling the books so I can buy more and continue this process.
We're also going to try and make sure that the people in power here, Julia Brownlee, our local congresswoman, is also the Veterans Affairs. She's the chair of the Veterans Affairs.
Excellent.
And introduce her to this, because as well as some of the other veterans organizations here in the area, Gold Coast Vets, for example, they'll be interested in knowing that you are in fact from this area.
Born and raised.
Returning to this area,
Yes.
which is also why you're featured here on our Ventura TV.
Thank you very much.
We like to have local people on this wonderful channel.
Yes.
So as we progress through the book, we have, I can't see it because I'm behind it. but
No,
what
I
are
can
we
show
looking
some
at
of the
right now?
originals, and these are some of military logos, but also 06 did a few renditions. And so in the end of the book, basically I dedicate the book to all those that have served and that was basically the end of the book for now. There's going to be a second book that's going to be produced, and in that second book I'm going to include taggers' actual stories, and I have a new set of photos, and as we can show a progression if you'd like.
Yep, this we've seen in the book already.
Right.
This
These are some of the
one.
first ones that appeared, and as that one appeared, then others started to appear.
These are some more of the original tags.
Right.
Would these go on during the day or in the middle of the night?
Well,
or kind of
you know,
at
I
all
actually
times?
tried to find some of these tag artists, and at the time I knew one of them personally, but they had to do it under, the cover of night, or, whenever they could, because this is not something that is actually accepted. These are
Sure.
on government products, so they're actually,
This is my favorite.
Yes, and they are.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, that one, you can see the progression now. They're using the paints, and now they're starting to tell the story.
Yeah.
And that's where we're getting the story
It
out.
truly
and-
is
right.
art history, just
Right.
like Kilroy.
Right, as I
G.I.
said,
Joe.
G.I. Joe, Kilroy was here, was some of the beginning. Then we had the nose art on that airplanes,
Right.
and we saw the beautiful women there.
And the posters.
And the posters, and this stuff here, we can save it. It's in our grasp right now to get the politicians to know that this stuff exists, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just informing the public about it, and eventually we're going to try to help out veterans organizations with any proceeds that come from any of this, so that we can, it'll turn into something that will be a helpful thing, and in the future, and maybe for generations to see these walls, and probably a reminder not to do this again.
Yes, we hope. Indeed,
Yes.
we do hope. But at least we'll have the archive, we'll have the art history, and we'll have the story.
Absolutely.
And I like thinking that perhaps a lot of this is done in just moonlight.
Possibly so, under the cover of darkness and during moonlight. Yes.
And you were also a songwriter, as a matter of fact. When you go to the YouTube
Yes.
version and you look at Kandahar tags and you look at James' work online, he starts that YouTube with a wonderful song that he's written himself. You have a lot of original songs, I
Yes. Yeah, I copyrighted about 25 songs, and what my avenue to release myself from some of the realities of being in a confines or in a stressful environment was to play music. And others would gather around me and we'd just play music. But I started to write my own music. And then from that, I put them on my projects because I couldn't afford to pay anyone. So that's how it all started out with that YouTube video. And so after that, that last interview that I had, I wrote that song thinking about these tag artists. So.
And I know that you have another project in the Philippines as well to help
Yes.
the children. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, thank you. I wrote a song for my mom. When I was young, a friend of mine died of cancer, and my mom would put a smile in my pocket to make me happy. And sometimes she'd put two to make me, so I'd have one to give away.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I wrote a song called Smile. And I took the song with me. I went on a trip to Scotland, and I rode a bike for cancer to help raise some money for a child that had cancer. And I started to talk to the people. And one of the school teachers liked the song, so I gave her the CD. Later I said to her, she was trying to raise some more money. I said, why don't you see if the kids will sing the song, and you can have the song to. And so they did. So it kind of snowballed from there. Next thing you know, they went into a studio and they produced an actual CD. And they started hand selling these little CDs of these children singing my song. And so now we're getting some children together that are in Norway and from Scotland, and they're going to sing the song, and we're going to raise money for a relief for the children in the Philippines.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
James Toler, homegrown veteran, served in our Army for 29 plus years. Thank you so very, very much for your service. Thank you for this awesome project. I think it's got wings. I believe you'll be able to bring this wall back. I see it. Nice. I can visualize it in Washington, D.C.
Well,
right there. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience, because we just have a minute and a half left or so?
Yes, please. Tell anybody that you may know about this project, and it'll help me get a little more traction with this. And please look at my website, and feel free to contact me on the website anytime.
And how do they do that? Give us your website again.
Once again, jtoler@bandcamp.com, or you can go to Kandahar Tags at Facebook, Kandahar Tags also.
Kandahar is Khandar.
Kandahar, Kandahar.
Whoops.
It's okay.
Kandahar.
Spell check will get you. And tags, all one word, and then you can try it that way. Just Google it. I should come up also.
It's a marvelous project. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you again for your service, and I look forward to having you on my radio show very soon, and we'll be able to put that up online and on Facebook as well.
Well, thank you, Lyn. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for watching Our Ventura TV. Stay tuned for some more amazing programs right here.